Welcome to Alberta Conservation Association's Harvest Your Own podcast, the resource for everything hunting, navigating through the field, the butcher shop, and the kitchen. Life is all about great food. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brad Fenson, an avid outdoor enthusiast who has worked as a freelance journalist, photographer, and public speaker for over 3 decades. I have hunted, fished, and foraged all my life and hope to share my passion for the outdoors. Along the way, I want to encourage everyone to harvest wild proteins and enjoy the satisfaction of providing the next meal for your family. Our goal is to educate, entertain, and inspire individuals to get outdoors and create a connection between food, health, and your future meals. Welcome to Harvest Your Own. Well, I've got somebody, close family member this week. My brother Dave is here, and we obviously grew up together in the same house, but I would say growing up we had, not drastically, but we had very different interests. You know, I drive down the road with Dave nowadays and he'll go, "Oh, look at that, there's a 56 Chevy with this, it's got a 450, to me that means nothing. Like, it's, oh yeah, look at that old car, it's blue. So, Dave.
Yep.
You know, there's different things, different directions we went. I guess it's safe to say that I've always been a hunting and fishing nut.
Very safe.
Yeah. And like I said, you had other interests, and you've done well at pursuing careers, and you're still a car buff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's never going away.
Right. And so I'm not sure. I mean, I look at a bird and I can tell you whether it's a speckled belly, a snow, a Ross's, a Canada, a lesser, a duck, a mallard, you know, whatever it is. You look at a car and you know what it is.
Same thing.
Same thing as features, or what is it?
It's all those things. It's the small little cues that you pick up getting to know things. So, you know, as I'm learning the outdoor stuff, you getting to know those cues when you're looking at geese in the sky, to what you're looking for to differentiate the species.
Right. So no matter what your interest is in life, it's never too late to get started with hunting. And the learning curve may seem steep, but it's a lot of fun getting there. And it doesn't take long to figure out that, oh, you know, pintails have a longer neck. Whitetails or mallards have that white wing bottom when they're flying. And a goldeneye going by really whistles its wings. You know, there's all these little things that you pick up on and learn, just like you'd identify a 56 Chevy.
Just like.
Anyways, growing up as a kid, it wasn't like you weren't engaged. We did a ton of fishing growing up. You know, I remember Dad saying that as soon as you get your intermediate swimming badge, which I don't even know if they use the same system nowadays through the Red Cross, but once we had that, we could take the boat out on our own. So that was like, I was driven. I took courses nonstop for a year and a half, and much to Mom's dismay, I was taking the boat out the following summer, and we did spent a lot of time fishing. But you know, growing up, I think the things that we remember most are going up to the cabin and going grouse hunting with Dad.
Absolutely. Grouse hunting was a highlight. It was the fall activity that was so enjoyable.
Yeah, I think we both cut our teeth on grouse, and we still have an eye for it. And safe to say, it's still your favorite?
It's certainly one of them. I really enjoy the hunt for grouse. It's full of memories, and the flavors are full of memories too when it's cooked. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd have to say I did more hunting growing up, and I'm not sure why that was. I remember a lot of the different deer camps I'd go to. You still remember your first whitetail you shot?
I do, yes.
It was many years ago. Tell us what happened.
It was in the Dropmore Valley in by Roblin, Manitoba, and we were out, and there was a bunch of us out, and it came out, and of course you're trying to learn the leading game, and this thing came running out, and I tried to lead it, and I remember when I managed to shoot it, there was a notch right at the front of its legs because I was leading it just a few inches too many. And the second shot, I managed to knock the thing down. It was a well-placed shot and rolled to a stop, and it was right next, not far from a path, made it very easy to recover. It was great, and I dragged those horns around, a small little set of antlers, but I dragged them around with me all these years. They're still in my garage.
Yeah. Yeah, we always remember those firsts and what gets us motivated. And it's important to say that you haven't been motivated to get out hunting. It's not that you were lacking motivation. It's just that your career took you in a direction where you were short on time, you moved lots, and it was tough to find people to go out with or even get to know an area before you turned around and moved again.
Yeah, the moving was very difficult, getting to know other people kind of that enjoyed hunting, and then getting comfortable enough with the area to go out and enjoy it. So we moved about every 2 years for more than a decade. So I'd get to know an area and feel comfortable getting out, and sometimes I'd get out a little bit, and then it was moving time again. So it made it difficult to do it consistently, and so it was challenging to feel like you were making any progress or getting better or getting to know the game better.
Right. And, you'd often come back and we'd get out on a grouse hunt. And 6 years ago, you came out, first ever goose hunt. We went on a spring snow goose hunt with the Zimmerlings.
Oh, it was amazing. I'll never forget it. Shot my first snow goose. It was a Ross's goose, and lo and behold, it was banded, which was incredible. And it was 19 years old. Had been tagged in the far north, and just incredible to learn.
Yeah, made thousands of miles back and forth migrations going north and south. And I'm thrilled to hear you say that it was an incredible hunt, because by a lot of people that do a lot of snow goose hunting, it was a tough day. The winds were really howling. We had trouble keeping the decoys in the ground. There was still frost down about 3 inches, so you couldn't get them in far. The decoys would blow out. The birds weren't cooperating. We managed to shoot 6 birds total, but the important message here is it's not always how many birds you shoot that makes it such a memorable, exciting, excellent hunt.
It's funny because even grouse hunting, I started doing it again a number of years ago before I got back into, before I went to the goose house, we got back out grouse hunting, and it wasn't the number of birds, it was who you went with, the experience, the drive, it's just nice to get out, and the game is the bonus, and the dinner is the big bonus. So.
I remember your Ross's goose well, because you had bought a new shotgun to come and play, and getting used to it, did some practicing, and we had that one flock that I think it was 2 birds that came in, and I didn't even sit up. I said, there's your shot, take it. And you up and you hit the bird. Didn't hit it good enough to knock it down immediately, but we kept an eye on it, and it flew out a couple 100 yards and then crashed out of the sky in the ditch alongside the road by a power pole. And it was like you were up and doing the sprint, running full speed, and it was probably 600 meters return trip.
Yeah, I was going to say it must have been 10 miles because it was quite a run, but about 600 meters return would probably be about right. It was a good run, and it was a thrill to get it there and find that bird. And then the band, I can't tell you about a footstep on the way back because I was so excited about that bird bringing it back.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting, people starting out, victories come in many ways, and you cherish them and you celebrate them. And at the end of the day, we had snow geese to eat, and I remember cleaning them. We did up, recipes with the breast meat, but we also, as you know, always save the legs and thighs. They're probably our favorite part of the fowl.
That is a lesson well learned. Yeah, I tell you, anybody that I've spoken to that has been hunting for years, and in the last few years, they've learned that the legs and thighs are oftentimes the treat that they look forward to above the breast meat because they cook up just amazing.
The goose hunt was a great starting point 6 years ago. I think it sort of created a bit of a fire, a passion. You went back home, you were grouse hunting more, you were going out with buddies. You even went deer hunting by yourself or with a friend.
Yeah, went out with the bow and sat in the blind and had opportunities with the doe. I was looking for a buck, and I didn't take anything that year, but getting out to the blind and just enjoying being out there and watching the game and looking for what I wanted. So it wasn't about having to find something immediately. Like I say, we had lots of does come in, and the opportunity was there, but it wasn't what I was looking for at the time. And so, but great memories.
Yeah, and again, people starting out, it's often small steps, right? You shot a goose, you went home, I think you bought another shotgun, a 20 gauge.
Yes, I bought an old double barrel shotgun at auction, which reminded me a Stevens, which was the same as what we started hunting grouse with when we were kids. And it's still, just picking up and having it in hand is filled with memories. I really enjoy taking that gun out for bird hunting.
Yes, take your gun for a walk and hopefully you get a bird.
Exactly, yeah.
This podcast is produced for Harvest Your Own, a program dedicated to those who want to reconnect with food and health through their experiences outdoors. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a resource for individuals to learn more about hunting and the outdoors. There's information to get you started and ensure that your compass stays pointed in the right direction to be successful. Where's your next meal coming from?
So again, starting to ramp up, you had somebody that was successful deer hunting and was able to go with you, and every little step you learn something new, don't you?
Absolutely. Every time you go out, every time you experience, every experience adds. And what it adds most is confidence. And what I found was it wasn't always having to get out with someone. It's once you've been out once or twice, successful or unsuccessful, you just have to go out there and become more and more comfortable with it and sit and watch and learn and experience, and that just builds the confidence. And once that's there, it all falls into place.
Yeah, confidence plays a big role in success, and that would lead me to the next phase of the story. During the COVID years, we managed to get a couple moose tags in Alberta. You were living in Saskatchewan at the time, but you came over, first ever moose hunt.
Yes.
So
amazing.
We're out there. We talked about the types of bulls that are in the area. We knew they're there. We were hoping to harvest a bull. I think it was day 3.
Yeah, day 3.
Day 3, first thing in the morning, there's a cow in a clear cut. And what happened from there?
I remember the fellow that was with me saying, "You better shoot that thing." I had the gun up on the sticks, and I was lining up my shot, and great place shot. I was very, you feel fortunate when things come together as they should. A well-placed shot, and a bull moose, one that dreams are made out of, fell that day and managed to harvest just an incredible bull moose.
Yeah, we missed with part of the story is the cow moose was there, which was an indicator for us to stop, pay attention, have a closer look, and yeah, a huge bull moose came out. I'm not saying that that's what anyone would turn down, but it's certainly not where most hunters start. It's usually like the first paddle, 4 inches, whatever you see on a moose is going to be the one that's headed for the freezer. But yours was, I think, 56 or something like that, wasn't it?
165, I think.
Oh, I scored one. It was a huge moose.
Yeah.
For Alberta standards, a big, mature bull. He was rutting. He was after the cow, and it was his demise because she was willing to stand in the open and basically give up his presence. So another great learning day in the field, pay attention to everything around you, look for tracks. It was day 3. Been looking for rut sign, looking where moose were traveling, crossing, rubbing trees. There was a whole bunch of things that led up to success. It's not like we just went out and found it and bang. But
yeah, the day before we spent quite a few hours in the muskeg,
right, and got stuck. Yes.
Yeah. But it was incredible, and I think the most incredible part about that was, I remember people saying, "Well, how big was it? How big was it?" The antlers? It had antlers, but when I shot, it was not about the antlers. It was placing that shot, and I was shocked with the size of it when we walked up. But more, I was shocked with the meat afterwards. I thank you for being there because we handled that meat in the way it needed to be handled, and it was just the best eating animal I had in a long time. It was, I thought, big bull, I wonder if this is going to be tough. No, that wasn't the case. It was incredible, and a testament to handling, having somebody around to guide you on how to handle that meat in the first instance to make sure it's treated properly. Yeah,
and of course, you go to Harvest Your Own a lot. You've been on that website a lot in the last couple of years, getting recipes, information, becoming a sponge. Hunting. Everyone thinks, "Oh, you're Brad's brother. You probably, have all the experience in the world," but you haven't been able to get out as much, and the learning curve is steep, but it's a fun curve. So, where do you go to get your information?
Well, I'll tell you, Harvest Your Own is the place I go when it's time to cook things. There's phenomenal recipes on there for absolutely anything, and you can, play with them a little bit the way you want. But the ACA website was something for me learning where public access lands were. So ACA's got a whole bunch of sites, and the other one is iHunter. You can go on there, the ACA sites, the Ducks Unlimited sites. So the area I had to draw this year for mule deer, I managed to go on that site and start looking at places to go and talk to people and, recommendations, and went out there and went from one site to the next looking, and managed to harvest a deer this year. But it started with those ACA sites and then iHunter, where you can get the land ownership information. And
right. Yeah, the ACA puts out a Discover Guide every year with all of the conservation properties, and they provide a lot of information. There's a map, there's what species are there, there's the access points. But that Discover Guide also comes available for your smartphone. You can download the app, and if you're out traveling, you can call them up. It'll give you directions. It'll link to your maps. It makes it pretty foolproof. And of course, you're smart. You tied in iHunter, where you can download the landowner ownership maps for a specific area, and easy to find a property and have confidence you're in the right spot.
Yes, and both those sites allow you to go into an expanded map that'll let you walk that property and know where you are on the property, what the terrain is ahead of you and behind you, where the openings are. So it was an incredible resource to get out there with and be able to navigate new sites by yourself and just go out and have a look and have some fun.
Yeah, so it's important to note that you had your first muley buck tag this year, and it was a big deal for you. I know you were looking forward to it. It was a goal that you had set. That's the one thing that you really wanted to achieve. And I think we were into the fourth week of the season, weren't we?
Yeah, we were getting pretty close to the end, and
yeah, we had been out a couple times. We saw some big bucks, didn't get a chance at them, but basically you got out there on your own. You know, you were out with Cameron, my son, your nephew, and the two of you explored a property I had showed you the night before that was in the Discover Guide. It's owned by ACA, and you walked in. What did you see?
We saw game. I mean, we saw big whitetail going in. We saw does. We saw. I shot. I managed to harvest that buck I wanted, and within a half an hour, because I still had a whitetail tag, we got the deer cleaned and out to the truck, and it was cool enough to take a little bit of time. Went back in and saw a big mule deer after that. It was quite impressive. Got some pictures. Know where we want to go back again next year and look again. But it was just incredible to be out there and watch the game and see the amount of opportunities that there were on this site that is an ACA site, public access site. So it was incredible to take advantage of that.
You know, the interesting thing is people often look at those sites and think, oh, there's public access, it's going to be overrun. But not a lot of other boot tracks on the property, is there?
It was interesting. There was a few people drive by, and in fact, we were getting ready just before legal light, and another hunter came up and said, are you planning to go in on the site? And I said, yes, we're going to walk in. He said, oh, I'll go try another one because there's many around there. And he left and went and picked another site. So it wasn't like it was competitive. We weren't bumping into people. There wasn't a lot of pressure. There wasn't, you're right, there wasn't a lot of boot prints. There was, but if you want to walk in, it's incredible what you see and what you experience just getting out of the truck and walking in. And we didn't go far. I mean, we're not talking a mile hike in where you're trying to drag out game afterwards a great distance. I mean, I ran farther for the goose than I did to drag this deer back to the truck. So right. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I know was it the day before or a couple days before we had hunted another property and we saw 3 bull moose, some big whitetails, rough grouse. There was a host of things that we saw on the property.
Yes. And it's just a lot of fun to get out there and see what's out there. And asking for permission is something that was kind of new to me. So it was, I learned a little bit more about it during the waterfowl season and going out and spotting and asking permission. And it's amazing how accommodating local residents are to hunters. But if you're not comfortable with that, there's a plethora of sites that ACS has available, Ducks Unlimited, and they're all available on that mapping. And so if you're not comfortable starting that way, these public access sites, foot access sites are an incredible way to start.
Yeah, and you created a pretty good bucket list this year, which is pretty normal when people get into hunting and they find out how much fun it is. Being in the outdoors, all of these things that, I think I would say they bring quality to life.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
So you got out here and all these things were going well. You're shooting more ducks and geese than you've ever had in your freezer your entire life. But you really wanted to shoot a pheasant.
Yeah. I came here. One of the things on my list was a pheasant. I enjoy new experiences. So, I got my mule deer. That was new for me. And I wanted to go pheasant hunting. So I went on the ACA site and they, you can ask for different things. One of them is pheasant release sites. So I plugged in the pheasant release sites, looked at the ones that were closest to home, picked one that wasn't, it was a little over an hour away from home. It wasn't the closest to town here, but it was a reasonable proximity, and went out there and harvested 2 pheasants my first time out. So it was incredible.
Yeah. So everyone that's listening that hasn't shot a pheasant but aspires to put one of the colorful delicious birds in the freezer. How many dogs were you running, and how many people were pushing the bush?
Well, I've been called a dog before, but I was the dog. We were just out for a walk. It's a little different. I know some people talk about whether you shoot a grouse or where you shoot a bird on the ground or you shoot it in flight. And I found with, pheasant, I was quite prepared to shoot one on the ground like I do grouse hunting because, I know they're runners. So I didn't have a dog to make them lift. I didn't have, and so I just looked for one and stalked and shot a pheasant. And it was incredible.
Nothing wrong with spot and stock pheasant. You can probably attest they're wonderful on the table.
Oh, I'll tell you what. That was one of the best tasting meals I've ever had. It was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think you actually got to try some of the smoked pheasant cheese ball that I had prepared for the Tabor Pheasant Festival events, and it probably inspired you to get out and find some more.
I'll tell you what, that is a recipe that is second to none. If you're looking for a treat when you're hosting people, don't make it if you're not hosting people because
you're going to eat the whole thing.
You're going to eat a cheese ball, and it's a lot, but it was absolutely delicious.
This podcast was made possible by Alberta Conservation Association and the Harvest Your Own community. If you're interested in harvesting your own food, there's a comprehensive collection of information to gain insight and knowledge. Head to the field, harvest your own protein, prepare it, and taste the results. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a library of information from getting started and geared up to processing, butchering, and cooking wild game to make the connection between health and food.
I basically call this the Alberta full-blown experience. You've bounced around Western Canada for most of your career. You finally retired, trying to find the things that are meaningful for you, make you happy, create enjoyment. And a lot of it's become hunting.
Hunting and fishing, yeah, for sure. Yeah, the hunting has been, and here I'm just finding the opportunities in Alberta just boundless. It's been an incredible year, new experiences, new game. And I'm looking forward to next year and sitting down with the list and trying to figure out what I want to try next year. More of the same for sure. Pheasant's definitely on the menu for next year.
Right.
Trying new things.
Yeah, and you've become very comfortable with a bow and learned that there is a ton of opportunity if you're a bow hunter in Alberta.
Oh, it's incredible. And they're not difficult to learn. A little bit of patience, find somebody that knows what they're doing to get you started, and a little bit of patience and a little bit of practice and you're good to go, but absolutely incredible opportunity.
And it helps for planning. You got drawn this year for mulebuck. You had the priority, so you finally drew a tag, but next year you're not going to have priority to hunt those areas, but you can bow hunt them.
I will bow hunt them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it gives you an early start, and you can spread your season out between your regular tags and your archery tags. It just elongates your season for you, which is fabulous in and of itself. And more opportunity.
The other interesting thing that I've taken note of is that you're on a steep learning curve. You don't have any go-to spots. You're creating your go-to spots. You've picked a bunch of properties that are within an hour and 20 minutes of home, making it quite comfortable, quite easy, which is doable anywhere in the province pretty much. But your strategy is now spend more time there. When we look at the species, there's mule deer, there's whitetail, there's moose, there's elk. And instead of splitting up your draws and drawing tags all over in different areas where you have to go somewhere different every week of November to try to harvest something, you're really spending more time in one area, learning it much better, learning some specific properties, the habitats, the animals there, the regular patterns. And I think having a bit of a strategy and an approach gets you in the field more. You're still close to home, and hopefully it leads to more success in the future.
Yeah, I mean, the zone came on a recommendation, and nobody will ever believe who I got the recommendation from. But once I got out there and realized how many public access properties there were and the opportunities and the different game available, I just want to get to know it a little better each time so that I'm comfortable. So I'm getting ready to go shed hunting, just to walk the same properties and get to know, where the pathways are in the winter. Their lily is their spot. Yep. And just get comfortable with those areas so that when I go back in next fall that I'm comfortable with where I'm going.
Right. And, it's always been a goal of mine to get out and shed hunt. It's a good excuse to be outdoors. You don't often find sheds, but when you do, it's exciting. But for me, it's always been a real big part of the learning curve. You all of a sudden find out where the deer move. Why is there always a trail at the bottom of the hill going through the lowlands, along the edge of the wetlands? The beds are 3/4 of the way up the hill, but there's never any trails on top of the hill. Like all these different things that you maybe didn't realize, but in the snow, there's a map. There's a map of where they live, what they do, and it tells you something if you pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, I got my deer in late season. There was snow on the ground. It was amazing to see the information that was laid out for you there on the ground. If you only wanted to look at the pathways, where they were going, the directions they were traveling, and the common routes versus the something passed here once, but
right,
maybe not again. But there was what I called highways that they used, and getting to know where they were going.
And that's part of the strategy of, we'll call it hunt all year, but it's more than just hunting. It's recreation, it's outdoor activity, it's fresh air, it's a whole bunch of different things. And, I hunt a lot of the properties for snowshoe hare in the winter. They make some fantastic food for the table. They're hard to hunt without dogs, but to get a couple is challenging and fun, and it's nice to come home with something, and it gives you another excuse to go out. I know it's easier for me to get motivated to go for a walk with a gun than just a backpack. So,
yes.
But good strategies to get out there, pay attention. I'm sure if you get out shed hunting, there'll be information there for a future moose draw or an elk hunt, or even where to find grouse in the winter. These little telltale signs about where they live and why they live. It's all right there in front of us.
Yeah, it's been great, and it is a learning curve. But you know what? It is a fascinating education that you get going out and doing this. So
it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
And if you can find somebody else to share it with, it's even more important. Like you got out with Cameron, he was very excited about those areas. Finding new spots that are productive and being successful on your own energy and your own homework and all the rest of it. It makes everything a little bit sweeter.
Yes. It's fantastic.
Yeah. What's on your bucket list?
Well, I was also fortunate enough to harvest cow elk this year.
Right.
And so next year, it's been a couple of years since I've had a whitetail, so whitetail's certainly on my list for next year. I understand with some of the pheasant release sites that they release some melanistic birds, so keeping my eye open for one of those.
Yeah.
But I'd like to try blue grouse. My sister lives in an area where there are blue grouse if you're willing to hike up the hill, so I want to see if I can chase one of those down. More waterfowling for sure. Seeing what else is available. We'll see what the draws bring is the other thing.
Maybe harvest your first big game animal with a bow or a bull elk. I mean, those are all good things to aspire to put in the freezer.
Absolutely.
Question I'd like to ask most of the people on Harvest Your Own. What is your favorite wild game recipe?
My favorite wild game recipe. It's ducklets. That's on the Harvest Your Own site. It is incredible. That's one that you introduced me to, and I just can't get enough of it. So if you haven't tried it and you got some duck and you're saying, I'm not sure what I want to do with it, some people are hot and cold on duck, so to speak, but it's a recipe that will make you an avid duck hunter because you're going to want some more.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because it's, as you know, our girls here, when you mention ducklets, which are duck cutlets that we do up with a crispy coating and a homemade teriyaki dip sauce, they get pretty excited and start screaming, ducklets. So we served it the first time at Waterfall Warm-Up. The ACA does a Waterfall Warm-Up event every August, help raise funds for the Report a Poacher trailer. But we serve wild game and try and encourage people to get out more after the wild fowl, we'll call it. But we served the ducklets there last year. You actually helped me.
Yes.
And I don't think there was a single person in the crowd that didn't want more than one.
It was interesting to see how many people came back to the table and said, I know it's just their samples, but.
Yeah, so that's a good one. That's I'd probably highly recommend it for anyone interested in finding something new to do with their ducks, and it is on Harvest Your Own. Anything else that you can provide for first-timers? What's a recommendation for getting inspired to get into the field or to try to be successful?
Well, I'll tell you, if you're wondering when it's too late to start hunting, I would tell you never. I'm getting into it pretty late in life after retirement. I'm doing, I've done a little bit over the years, but this is certainly a growing passion. find somebody that's interested, go for a walk, get to know an area. You don't have to go with someone. It's the first couple of times, if you want to go with someone, just find somebody that's interested in going. They don't have to be a hardcore hunter. They can be just like you. Go onto an ACA site, pick a place and go for a walk, and you'll never look back.
I believe that it's all about building and gaining the confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you do that, every trip is fun, whether you find something and harvest it or not, because you're learning, and every stage is part of that confidence building for that day when your first mule deer buck steps out in front of you.
Yes, and it's great, but just go and enjoy it. I mean, it's so enjoyable to be out there. The harvest is sometimes the bonus, and for some, big game hunting, it's not like waterfowl. In waterfowl, you get out and you may have a banner day and have lots of harvest, lots of birds. Big game, you might spend a lot of time and harvest very little or none in a year, but that's okay. It doesn't make it any less enjoyable.
Yeah, it makes it hard on a person if you put your pressure on yourself to be successful at every event, and you need to look for different ways to achieve success. And that is learning a property, finding where to hunt, finding someone to go with, learning more about the species, actual sightings. All these things eventually lead up to a meal somewhere down the road.
Yes. I mean, the real reward is getting out there. It is just enjoyable. The worst day of hunting is still better than the best day of working. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your journey with us. It's interesting. We did grow up together. We both love hunting and fishing. I just got to do a lot more of it over the years. I think mostly because I made it my job. But
that might have helped.
It did help, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So welcome to the fraternity. We're looking forward to getting out and doing a lot more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
We hope to inspire people to reconnect with nature and appreciate where your food comes from by harvesting your own. For more information on getting started or to learn specifics about the Field to Fork experience, visit harvestyourown.ca and follow on Facebook and Instagram. Check back often for new material, recipes, and videos that are posted regularly. Please subscribe to Harvest Your Own podcast and take the time to rate and review the show to help us build a dedicated core of passionate hunters as our regular audience. Until next time, embrace the outdoors and all it has to offer. Thanks for joining us.